currently a postdoctoral psychology fellow with the emphasis on military sexual trauma at the Charlie Norwood VA Medical Center in Augusta, Georgia. Dr. Cole earned her Bachelor of Arts degree in psychology from Spelman College and a Master of Arts and Doctor of Philosophy in clinical psychology from the University of Rhode Island. As an emerging scientist practitioner focused on health disparities and risky behaviors among diverse and underrepresented populations, she is dedicated to translating research into action. Dr. Cole is a clinician, program evaluator, and researcher who has worked in community and institutional settings in the U.S. and Sub-Saharan Africa. Her research is focused on women's health, developmental psychopathology, sexually transmitted infections, including HIV and AIDS, and the psychological adjustment of West African immigrant populations from conflict zones. Her recent work qualitatively explored the impact of the Ebola outbreak on Sierra Leonean immigrants in the United States. She has worked in a variety of clinical settings and has delivered evidence-based treatments to patients who have experienced a wide range of conditions, including complex trauma. Dr. Cole was awarded the Stanley Berger Award for Excellence in Clinical Psychology and her dedication to underserved populations. She is currently focused on expanding her knowledge base of evidence-based treatments of psychological trauma and comorbidities and aims to culturally adapt such interventions among underserved populations abroad. She is a proud Spelman alumna who is celebrating her 10-year reunion this year. Help me in welcoming Dr. Jackie Cole.
Thank you, Brianna. Thank you, everyone, for this invitation. It's a surreal moment to be here today, 10 years later after I left Spelman College. So hello, my Spelman sisters, guests, and loved ones. It's an honor to be back on Spelman's campus to celebrate the new inductees of Psi Chi National Honor Society. I'm also very excited to be here on April 4th, as this date represents various important milestones in my life. First, I inherited one of my favorite aunt's names, my Auntie Daphne, and her birthday is today, on April 4th.
Happy birthday, Mom! Oh, happy birthday.
First Auntie Daphne, but then on April 4th, 2005, in sunny Orlando, I came home after school to find the big blue envelope that held within it my acceptance letter to Spelman College. Several years later on my journey, on April 4th, 2011, I was accepted into the clinical psychology PhD program at the University of Rhode Island with a fellowship to cover my first year expenses. So you can probably imagine how excited I am to be back at Spelman College speaking with my sisters on April 4th, 2019 as Dr. Cole. This journey back to Spelman has had many twists and turns, but I would like to share with you 3 essential ingredients that helped me get this far: vision, unyielding faith, and perseverance. It is my hope that sharing these ingredients can help each of you as you continue to matriculate through Spelman and venture beyond the gates. The first essential ingredient that helped me get this far was vision. In the Bible, Proverbs 29:18 states, "Where there is no vision, the people perish." I found that having this innate vision, no matter what anyone says, has helped lay the foundation for my journey. I knew I wanted to be a clinical psychologist back when I was 14 years old and saw the realities of a family member who struggled with the impact of bipolar disorder. At that time, my family and I didn't quite understand the illness as we were impacted by the realities of manic and depressive episodes. As this family member went in and out of the hospital, we racked our brains for answers. About a year later, I took my first psychology class in high school and wrote a paper on bipolar disorder and received a high score. Some months after that assignment was completed, when my loved one was released from the hospital, they were officially diagnosed with bipolar disorder. At that moment, I ran back to look at that assignment I completed, and I realized that each symptom I described illustrated the lived experience of my loved one. I decided from that day forward, I wanted to use psychology to help my family member and so many others who were searching for clarity about their condition. That moment sparked my vision of becoming a clinical psychologist. As I applied to Spelman, the first sentence in my personal statement stated, "I have always envisioned myself as becoming an independent, driven, and successful woman." At the time, I didn't know how I would become the woman I envisioned, but I still imagined her often in my head. This knack for vision wasn't always well understood or well received by my family members, though. For example, during my senior year in high school, I had this vision of a mango orange prom dress, much to my mother's annoyance. We traveled high and low for this dress, and almost threw in the towel several times. Until that moment, I went to a different mall and I found the dress I envisioned. I have pictures too. From that moment forward, I knew that if I could imagine something in my head, the universe or God would soon conspire to make sure that I would get it. Those early experiences signify the importance of establishing a vision for your life in order to lay the foundation for the path to success. The next essential ingredient that has helped me is unyielding faith. As I mentioned earlier, the path to getting a PhD in psychology has many twists and turns, and it is not for the faint at heart. While attending Spelman, I was diligent in my schoolwork and asked lots of questions because remember, I had this vision that I had to fulfill. In my general psychology class with Dr. Brackey, I remember the day she outlined various types of psychologists: clinical, counseling, social, research, industrial, organizational psychologists, and etc. After class, I went to her office hours and asked, "How do I become a clinical psychologist?" She said, "Well, Daphne, you need research experience." I said, "Well, how do I get research experience?" She said, "I think it's best you go talk to Dr. Bradley." So I literally left her office and went straight to Dr. Bradley's office hours and asked Dr. Bradley, "How do I get research experience?" Dr. Bradley encouraged me to apply to the MBRS RISE research program, and I was accepted into the program the summer after my sophomore year at Spelman. The RISE program sparked my love for research as I explored the risks and protective factors of HIV and AIDS and STIs among African American college students, and I gained wonderful mentors that are still influential to my life today. I stayed in the RISE program until I graduated Spelman, and was even afforded the unique opportunity to travel to Tanzania for 3 months in 2008 in order to continue my research on HIV/AIDS. So it would appear on the surface that I was well on my way to becoming Dr. Cole, until I experienced some challenges during my senior year. The dreaded GRE and life stress. Picture this: it's your senior year in college, and you think your path is laid out for you until you experience a challenge that knocks you down hard enough that you end up doubting everything you've ever envisioned. Around that time in my life, I dealt with fear, family stress, and doubt if I could actually make it in a PhD program. The acceptance rate for PhD programs in clinical psychology are usually around 1 to 2% of those who apply. I felt that I had all my ducks in a row with research, recommendation letters, and etc. until I took the GRE exam without studying, y'all, and completely bombed this test. At this moment, failure looked me directly in the face and I was terrified. However, in hindsight, I learned that failure could be an opportunity for growth and redirection. After that initial failure, I studied for the GRE exam and I took the exam again, and my score barely went up a few points. Panic began to sink in, and I felt pressure to apply to PhD programs, but deep down, I knew that I wasn't ready. I had my list of PhD programs, Master's in Public Health programs, and a master's degree in psychology programs, but I had just ended up applying to a master's program in clinical health psychology because I was struck by fear and panic. While working in the RISE program in college, I also had a part-time job at the Morehouse College bookstore for extra spending money. But after failing the GRE twice and getting rejected from a master's program in psychology, I remember going to my mentor, Dr. Young, who works at Morehouse, going to her office, distraught and crying, and I said to her, "I'm gonna work in the bookstore for the rest of my life."
I remember that.
She told me, "Daphne, you are not gonna work in the bookstore for the rest of your life. You'll be okay. We all will help you. Your Morehouse family, your Spelman family will help you." So after my therapy session with Dr. Young, I met with each of my professors, and Dr. Bradley took my CV/resume and forwarded it to some colleagues at UNC Chapel Hill. Within a few weeks, I got an interview to work for the director of the clinical psychology PhD program at UNC Chapel Hill. I interviewed for the job, and I moved to North Carolina 2 weeks later. That moment of failure was actually redirection, and I continued on my journey to becoming Dr. Cole. During the 2 years in North Carolina, I gained additional skills, but the most important skill I learned was to activate my faith muscle. I saw how God changed my life suddenly and decided to trust Him in order to fulfill the mission of becoming Dr. Cole. From living in North Carolina to moving up to the very cold and very tiny state of Rhode Island, I have relied on my faith in God and His promises, which state, 1, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Philippians 4:13. Another one, for I know the plans that I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. Jeremiah 29:11. That is my favorite verse. But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest on me. 2 Corinthians 12:9. Resting on these promises has shown me that in times of uncertainty and challenge, spiritual strength and resolve can help one endure the journey. Unyielding faith not only helped me get into grad school, but it also helped me get through every assignment, every presentation, every clinical practicum, every setback, my master's thesis and dissertation. It has helped me complete my doctoral internship in Augusta, despite many curveballs, and it's helping me now as I continue my postdoctoral training and study for the Georgia's licensing exam. My hope for you all, my Spelman sisters, is that you use your faith to carry you through even when the next step is uncertain. There is a famous quote by Martin Luther King that states, "Take the first step in faith." You do not have to see the whole staircase. Just take the first step. So I encourage you, my Spelman sisters, to take things one thing at a time. Your gifts and talents will make room for you. If you have days where you're overwhelmed by thinking about the past or overanalyzing the future, break things down into one small step. Focus on the tasks that you have to do today. Tomorrow will handle itself. The last essential ingredient that has helped me get this far is perseverance. Perseverance is defined as persistence in doing something despite difficulty or delay in achieving success. This journey is not for those who easily give up. There were many times in graduate school when I wanted to give up. Even before I applied to graduate school, there were many times when I wanted to throw in the towel. As I mentioned earlier, acceptance rates for clinical psychology PhD programs are only about 1% to 2%. In fall of 2010, I initially wanted to apply to 10 PhD programs, but I can only afford to apply to 7. I was waitlisted at one school and received only one interview at URI. After I was accepted to URI, I found out that URI reviewed 500 applications. They invited 40 people for interview week and end up only selecting 5 people total in my cohort. Only 2 out of that 5 that were selected looks like me, you, and me. 2 out of 5. So this is what you want to do. Be prepared to work hard and push yourself beyond your doubts. With perseverance, also remember your support system. To this day, I still visit my former professors here at Spelman because they're part of my journey. They're my foundation. They're your foundation. The lessons I have learned here while studying for long hours in Giles, the Science Center, Cosby, or the library laid the foundation and helped me reach heights far beyond my expectations, beyond the Spelman gates. So as you encounter various challenges during your time at Spelman, remember who you are. Remember your gifts, and always, always, always let your work speak for itself. As I reflect on my journey of becoming Dr. Cole, it was vision, unyielding faith, and perseverance that has afforded me the honor of coming back to Spelman on April 4th, 2019, to have a full circle moment with my Spelman sisters. So I leave you with the introduction to my personal statement from my Spelman application. I have always envisioned myself as becoming an independent, driven, and successful woman. It brings my heart deep joy and gratitude to know that 10 years later, after exiting Spelman to serve others beyond the gates, I can finally say that I'm her. I have become the woman that I have envisioned several years ago. I'm finally Dr. Cole. If I can do it, so can you. I want to congratulate the new inductees of Psi Chi National Honor Society in Psychology, and thank you again for allowing me to be your keynote speaker. I'm excited about your journey and where it will take each of you. So in summary, as I'm wrapping up, I want to also share with you a nugget of wisdom given to me by my mother. When I first got into Spelman, she gave me a little glass airplane that came in a box. And it said, "Fly high. There are no heights you cannot reach if you just have the will. So spread your wings and soar ahead and all your goals fulfill." I wish each and every one of you, I want you to fly high in your journey and remember that dreams are free. No matter what anybody tells you, if you can dream it, you can achieve it. Thank you.